You may have felt it in a quiet moment, perhaps late at night, or during a perfectly ordinary commute. A strange hollowness that settles in despite the fact that, objectively, your life might look quite good. You have work, perhaps a home, relationships that function well enough, yet something feels absent, like you're living a life that fits someone else's blueprint rather than your own. This peculiar ache, this sense of going through motions without understanding why, is not a personal failing. It is what we might call the modern meaning crisis, a widespread condition of our time where we possess comfort and choice, yet feel curiously empty. And to understand this feeling, to truly feel seen by it, we need neither another productivity system nor a new wellness routine. We need, perhaps, a long-dead, famously troubled Russian novelist, Fyodor Dostoevsky, a man who understood better than almost anyone why we sometimes need to suffer for our sanity, and why the search for purpose cannot be separated from our capacity to endure life's deeper pains. Dostoevsky lived through Tsarist Russia, faced a mock execution, spent years in a Siberian labor camp, battled epilepsy and gambling addiction. He knew suffering intimately. Yet his philosophy, expressed through his novels, offers us something unexpected. Not darkness, but a kind of profound comfort. He shows us that our feelings of existential dread, our anxieties about life meaning, are not symptoms of weakness, but signs of a soul refusing to accept shallow answers. In an age obsessed with eliminating discomfort, Dostoevsky whispers a different truth, that our unease might be precisely what we need to become fully human. There is a voice inside you that refuses to be satisfied. You've felt it. It's the part of you that, even when everything is going according to plan, feels a strange urge to disrupt things, to choose something impractical, to reject the safe path, to feel something, anything other than the smooth, predictable comfort of a well-organized existence. Dostoevsky gave this voice its most famous expression through a character he called the Underground Man, a bitter, isolated figure who rages against the idea that human beings are rational creatures who simply want happiness and comfort. The Underground Man rebels against what he calls the Crystal Palace, a metaphor for a perfectly rational, scientifically organized society where all needs are met and all questions answered. But here's the insight that matters for us. He rejects this, not because he's mentally ill, but because he understands something essential about human nature that modern society often forgets. We don't just want to be happy, we want to be free. And sometimes, we need to prove to ourselves that we are free by making choices that make absolutely no rational sense. The Underground Man would rather choose suffering, choose pain, choose failure, than live in a world where his every action is predetermined by some external logic of efficiency and comfort. Because at least in choosing poorly, he knows he exists. At least in rebellion, he feels real. Think about your own life for a moment. Haven't you sometimes sabotaged a good thing, picked a fight you didn't need to have, chosen the harder path when an easier one was available? We call this self-destructive behavior, and perhaps it sometimes is. But Dostoevsky asks us to consider whether it might also be something else, a desperate assertion of autonomy, a refusal to be reduced to a predictable algorithm of stimulus and response. This is why our meaning crisis cannot be solved by simply optimizing our lives further. You can perfect your morning routine, maximize your productivity, eat all the right foods, practice all the right habits, and still feel that hollow ache. Because what you're longing for isn't another form of control or certainty. You're longing for the feeling of making real choices, choices that matter, choices that carry weight and risk and consequence. You're longing for freedom, even if that freedom is sometimes terrifying. The Underground Man shows us that beneath our polished, functional exteriors, we are still wild creatures who need to feel that our lives belong to us, that we are not simply well-functioning machines producing the correct outputs. The restlessness you feel when life becomes too smooth, too predictable, too comfortable, that's not a malfunction. That's your soul rebelling against a life that feels inauthentic, a life where you're going through motions rather than making genuine choices. Dostoevsky understood that we would rather suffer as ourselves than be happy as someone else's idea of who we should be. And this understanding cuts to the heart of why self-improvement strategies often leave us feeling even more empty. They promise to make us better, more efficient, more optimized, but they rarely ask whether we're becoming more ourselves. They offer us scripts and systems when what we need is the courage to improvise, to choose, to risk being wrong. In The Brothers Karamazov, Dostoevsky places a devastating line in the mouth of Ivan Karamazov. If God is dead, everything is permitted. This has become one of the most famous propositions in philosophy, and it speaks directly to our modern condition, whether we are religious or not. Translate this idea beyond its theological context. What Ivan is really saying is this: if there is no transcendent source of value, no given meaning written into the fabric of existence, then we face a kind of freedom that borders on terror. We must create our own values from nothing. We must decide what matters without any cosmic validation that we've chosen correctly. Every moral choice, every commitment, every declaration of meaning rests on our own fragile human authority alone. This is the heart of nihilism, not the cartoon version where people dress in black and declare nothing matters, but the genuine philosophical problem that haunts thoughtful people in modern society. You've been given unprecedented freedom to create your own life. You can choose your career, your relationships, your beliefs, your identity. You are not bound by tradition or fate or divine command. You are, in the most radical sense, free. And this freedom is exhausting, because with it comes the burden of justification. Why this job rather than another? Why this relationship? Why these values? You search for answers, and none of them feel solid. You read philosophy, explore existentialism, seek frameworks for life meaning, but they all feel like constructions, temporary scaffolding you're building over an abyss. Nothing feels given, nothing feels certain, nothing feels like it would withstand serious scrutiny. This is the source of much of our existential dread. Not that life is objectively meaningless, we can never know that for certain, but that we have been handed the responsibility of creating meaning in a universe that offers no instructions, no validation, no confirmation that we've gotten it right. We are like artists staring at a blank canvas, except the canvas is our entire life, and we cannot simply walk away if we don't like what we're creating. Ivan Karamazov spirals into madness wrestling with this freedom. He cannot bear a world where morality is just human preference, where love is just biological programming, where meaning is just a story we tell ourselves to get through the day. He wants his choices to matter in some absolute sense. He wants there to be a right answer, a true path, a genuine meaning that exists independently of his own fragile will. You've felt this, haven't you? That nagging doubt that everything you care about is just arbitrary, that your purpose is just a narrative you've constructed to avoid facing the void, that your values are just preferences, no more objectively true than your taste in music. And once you start thinking this way, it's hard to stop. Everything feels contingent. Everything feels optional. Everything feels like it could just as easily be otherwise. This is why Dostoevsky matters for us. He doesn't dismiss this problem or offer cheap reassurance. He faces it squarely. He shows us characters who wrestle with the terrible freedom of a world without given meaning. And through their struggles, he points toward something that isn't a solution exactly, but a way of living within the question that doesn't destroy us. Here we arrive at Dostoevsky's most challenging and most profound insight. Suffering is not an obstacle to a meaningful life. It is often the very pathway to meaning. The pain you've been trying so hard to eliminate, the discomfort you've been medicating and managing and optimizing away, It might be precisely what you need. This will sound wrong to modern ears. We are told constantly that the goal of life is to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. That suffering is something to be fixed, solved, eliminated. That the good life is the comfortable life. But Dostoevsky asks us to consider whether this might be backwards. Whether suffering, properly understood, might be what forges consciousness, deepens empathy, and forces us to confront what truly matters. Consider Raskolnikov in Crime and Punishment. He is a brilliant young man who commits murder based on an intellectual theory that extraordinary people are beyond conventional morality, that greatness requires the courage to transgress. He believes he can act rationally, commit a crime for rational reasons, and walk away unaffected. But what follows is not external punishment. What follows is an internal crucible of guilt, anxiety, and spiritual agony that nearly destroys him. Yet this suffering is not meaningless. It is not mere punishment. It is the process by which Raskolnikov's arrogant intellectualism is broken down, by which he is forced to feel rather than just think, by which he reconnects with his humanity. His anguish strips away his theories and leaves him face to face with the reality of what he has done, not as an abstract proposition, but as a living wound in his conscience. And it is only through this suffering, through allowing himself to fully feel the weight of his actions, that he becomes capable of genuine transformation. The novel ends not with his punishment, but with the beginning of his spiritual renewal, made possible only by his willingness to endure the pain of consciousness. What does this mean for you? Consider the difficulties you've faced, the heartbreak that forced you to question what love really means, the failure that stripped away your ego and taught you humility, the loss that made you understand what truly matters, the anxiety that forced you to confront truths about yourself you'd been avoiding. Were these obstacles to your growth, or were they the very means of it? Dostoevsky suggests that consciousness itself requires friction, that we only truly see ourselves and our world when something disrupts our comfortable assumptions, that spiritual growth happens not in moments of ease, but in moments of crisis, when we are forced to dig deeper than our usual defenses and convenient beliefs. This is not an argument for seeking out pain or romanticizing trauma. Dostoevsky is not saying we should actively pursue suffering. Rather, he's saying that when suffering arrives, as it inevitably does, we have a choice. We can resist it, numb it, deny it, try to return as quickly as possible to comfort and certainty. Or we can allow it to work on us, to ask ourselves what it is teaching us, to let it crack open our sealed assumptions and reveal something true beneath. Think about the people you admire most deeply. Chances are they are people who have suffered and been transformed by it, not broken by it, but deepened. They carry a certain quality of presence, of empathy, of wisdom that seems to come only from having walked through fire and emerged changed. They understand things that cannot be learned from books or lectures. They know things that can only be known through direct experience of pain. This is what Dostoevsky means when his characters talk about suffering as redemptive. Not that it magically makes everything better, but that it can serve as the crucible in which a shallow, theoretical understanding of life is transformed into something lived, felt, and real. It forces us out of our heads and into our hearts. It breaks down our ego's stories about who we are and confronts us with the raw reality of existence. Your anxiety about meaning, your existential dread, your sense of emptiness, these are forms of suffering too. And perhaps they are trying to tell you something. Perhaps they are your soul's way of saying that the life you're living doesn't go deep enough, that the values you've adopted don't truly touch your core, that the purpose you've been pursuing feels hollow because it was chosen from fear or convention rather than authentic desire. What if, instead of trying to eliminate these feelings as quickly as possible, you sat with them? What if you asked them what they want from you? What if you allowed them to guide you toward a life that requires more courage, more vulnerability, more genuine choice? This is the path Dostoevsky offers, not a path of avoiding pain, but a path of allowing pain to reveal truth. But Dostoevsky doesn't leave us stranded in suffering. He offers an antidote to nihilism and the meaning crisis. And it is both simple and impossibly difficult. He calls it active love. In The Brothers Karamazov, the wise monk Father Zosima tells a woman who is struggling with doubt and despair. Love in action is a harsh and dreadful thing compared with love in dreams. This is the key. Active love is not a feeling. It is not warm sentiments or good intentions. It is a practice, a discipline, a choice made again and again to bear another person's burden, to show up, to serve, to care, even when, perhaps especially when, you don't feel like it. Consider Alyosha Karamazov, perhaps Dostoevsky's most profound portrait of what a meaningful life might look like. Alyosha is not brilliant like his brother Ivan. He doesn't have grand theories or philosophical sophistication. What he has is a capacity for genuine presence with other people. He listens without judgment. He offers help without expectation of reward. He bears witness to others' pain without trying to fix or flee from it. He practices active love. Or consider Sonia Marmeladova in Crime and Punishment, the young woman forced into prostitution to support her family. By conventional morality, her life should be meaningless, shameful. Yet Dostoevsky presents her as one of the most spiritually luminous characters in all literature. Why? Because she loves actively. She sacrifices for those who depend on her. She chooses compassion over bitterness. She maintains her humanity in circumstances designed to destroy it. Her life has purpose not because of what she achieves or acquires, but because of how she loves. This is Dostoevsky's answer to the question that haunts us. What makes life meaningful? And his answer is radical in its simplicity. Life becomes meaningful not through great achievements, not through accumulating experiences or wealth or status, not through solving the philosophical problem of existence. Life becomes meaningful through the quality of connection we bring to our daily encounters with other human beings. Active love is what transforms suffering from meaningless pain into meaningful struggle. When you suffer alone, for no one, it can feel unbearable. But when you suffer for someone you love, when you choose to bear a burden for another person's sake, the suffering takes on a different quality. It becomes purposeful. It connects you to something beyond yourself. This is why acts of service and care feel meaningful in a way that self-focused achievements often don't. When you help someone who cannot repay you, when you show up for someone in pain, when you listen to someone's story with full presence, you are not just being kind. You are creating meaning. You are building the substance of a meaningful life, moment by moment, choice by choice. And here's what's beautiful about this. You don't need to figure out your grand life purpose before you can begin. You don't need to solve the philosophical problem of meaning. You don't need to eliminate your doubts or your existential dread. You simply need to practice active love wherever you are, with whatever resources you have, toward whoever is in front of you. This is spiritual growth in Dostoevsky's terms. Not becoming more perfect, more enlightened, more certain, but becoming more capable of genuine connection, more willing to let your heart be moved by another's pain, more able to act with compassion even when it's difficult or inconvenient. The person sitting across from you in pain, they don't need your theories about life meaning. They need your presence, your attention, your willingness to sit with them in their difficulty without rushing to fix it or explain it away. This is what active love looks like. And in these small, unglamorous moments of genuine human connection, something extraordinary happens. Meaning emerges, not as an abstract concept, but as a lived reality. Dostoevsky shows us that the antidote to nihilism is not a better argument or a more convincing philosophy. It is practice, the practice of choosing connection over isolation, the practice of choosing compassion over judgment, the practice of showing up, again and again, for the messy, complicated, often disappointing reality of caring for other human beings. This doesn't eliminate the philosophical questions. Ivan's doubts don't disappear when you practice active love, but they cease to paralyze you, because you're not waiting for certainty before you live. You're living your way into meaning, one act of care at a time. Let's pause here and recognize something important. If you've made it this far, if these ideas resonate with you, it's because you are someone who refuses easy answers. You could have accepted the surface pleasures of modern society, the entertainment, the distractions, the comfortable numbing of genuine feeling. But you didn't. You felt that something was missing, and you went looking for it. This is not a flaw in your character. This is your greatest strength. Your dissatisfaction with a shallow, comfortable life is not existential dread that needs to be cured. It is your soul insisting on depth, on reality, on truth. The meaning crisis you feel is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that you are awake. Dostoevsky would recognize you immediately. You are like his characters, people who cannot simply accept the given scripts, who question, who wrestle, who feel the full weight of consciousness. You are people for whom life's big questions are not academic, but urgent, personal, necessary. And here is what he would tell you. Your struggle is not separate from your purpose. It is your purpose. The very fact that you long for meaning, that you feel the inadequacy of easy answers, that you are willing to suffer the discomfort of genuine questions, this is what makes you capable of living deeply. Think about what you're really asking when you ask about life meaning. You're not asking for a formula or a prescription. You're asking for a way to live that feels true, that engages your full humanity, that doesn't require you to numb or diminish yourself. You're asking for permission to be as complex, as contradictory, as difficult as you actually are. And Dostoevsky gives you that permission. Through his philosophy, through his characters, he says, yes, you are messy. Yes, you contain contradictions. Yes, you are capable of both selfishness and profound love, both cynicism and hope, both cruelty and compassion. This doesn't make you broken. This makes you human. The underground man lives in you, with his bitter refusal of easy certainties. But so does Alyosha, with his capacity for gentle presence. So does Raskolnikov, with his intellectual arrogance and his capacity for remorse. So does Sonia, with her ability to love in the midst of degradation. You are all of these people, and the goal is not to eliminate the difficult parts, but to hold all of it with compassion. Our culture teaches us to think about purpose as something you find, like a treasure hidden in the world, waiting for you to discover it. We speak of finding your purpose as if it were a specific career, a particular calling, a single answer that, once discovered, would make everything clear and easy. But Dostoevsky offers a different understanding. Purpose is not found. It is built. It is constructed moment by moment through the choices you make, the attention you give, the love you practice. Your purpose is not a destination you're traveling toward. It is the quality you bring to the journey itself. This is liberating because it means you don't have to have it all figured out before you begin. You don't need to know your life's grand mission. You don't need a 5-year plan or a clear vision of your destiny. You simply need to ask yourself, in this moment, right now, what is the most meaningful thing I could do? What act of care? What gesture of connection? What small service could I offer? Maybe it's calling a friend who's struggling. Maybe it's really listening to your partner instead of half listening while thinking about work. Maybe it's helping a stranger who's having difficulty. Maybe it's showing up for work with genuine attention rather than just going through motions. Maybe it's sitting with your own difficult feelings instead of running from them. These small choices are not preparation for a meaningful life. They are meaningful life itself. They are how purpose is built, brick by brick, moment by moment. And here's what's wonderful. You can begin right now. You don't need to wait until you've resolved your philosophical doubts or eliminated your existential dread. You can practice active love even in the midst of uncertainty. This is Dostoevsky's philosophy in action. Meaning is not a problem to be solved through correct thinking. It is a reality to be created through correct action, through the patient, often unglamorous work of showing up for life and for other people with as much presence and compassion as you can muster. Let's also reconsider your relationship with suffering, not to glorify it or to suggest you should seek it out, but to understand it differently. When you look back over your life, at the experiences that shaped you most deeply, chances are many of them were difficult, painful. The times when you felt most lost, most broken, most uncertain. Ask yourself, what did those experiences teach you? How did that heartbreak clarify what you actually want in relationship? How did that failure teach you humility and compassion for others who struggle? How did that period of depression or anxiety force you to develop coping skills and self-understanding you wouldn't have otherwise? How did that loss teach you what truly matters? The difficult times were not interruptions in your life story. They were essential chapters. They were the crucible experiences where your character was forged, where your values were tested, where you discovered resources within yourself you didn't know you had. Without them, you would be less dimensional, less deep, less capable of genuine empathy. Dostoevsky asks us to hold our suffering not with resentment, but with a kind of grateful curiosity. What is this pain trying to teach me? What part of me needs to grow or change or awaken? What truth about myself or my life is trying to emerge through this discomfort? This doesn't mean pretending that suffering is pleasant, or that you should be thankful for trauma. It means recognizing that consciousness grows through resistance, that character is forged in difficulty, that the deepest lessons often come wrapped in the most challenging experiences. Your current struggles with meaning, your existential dread, your sense of hollowness, these are teachers too. They are telling you that you need something more than what you currently have. Not more things or more achievements, but more depth, more authenticity, more connection to what matters. They are painful, yes, but they are also guides pointing you toward a more genuine way of living. One of Dostoevsky's greatest gifts is his celebration of human complexity. His characters are never simple heroes or villains. They are contradictory, inconsistent, struggling. They contain multitudes, and this is precisely what makes them feel real and recognizable. You are also not one thing. You contain both the underground man's bitter skepticism and Alyosha's capacity for love. You are capable of both selfishness and generosity, both doubt and faith, both cynicism and hope. You are, in other words, beautifully, messily human. Modern society often asks us to be consistent, to have a clear brand, to present a unified self. But Dostoevsky shows us that this is not only impossible but undesirable. The goal is not to eliminate your contradictions, but to hold them with awareness and compassion, to acknowledge that you are complex, that you contain opposing impulses, and that this complexity is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be embraced. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to resolve every philosophical question or eliminate every doubt. You can live in the in-between, in the space of uncertainty, and still build a meaningful life through the practice of active love. You can hold your skepticism and your hope simultaneously. You can question everything and still choose to act with compassion. You can doubt the ultimate meaning of existence and still create meaning through your daily choices. This is what spiritual growth looks like in Dostoevsky's terms. Not becoming certain or perfect or resolved, but becoming more capacious, more able to hold complexity, more willing to live with questions, more capable of choosing love even in the absence of guarantees. As we draw toward the end of our exploration, let's return to where we began. The modern meaning crisis, that peculiar emptiness that can haunt even successful, comfortable lives. We've journeyed through Dostoevsky's philosophy, through his understanding of freedom and suffering, through his vision of active love as the antidote to nihilism, and what have we learned? That the meaning crisis is real, but it is not a diagnosis of failure. It is a sign of depth, a mark of consciousness, a call to live more authentically. That Fyodor Dostoevsky, through his troubled life and profound fiction, offers us not solutions, but companionship, the reassurance that someone has walked this path before, has felt these feelings, has wrestled with these questions, and has found a way to live that doesn't require eliminating the difficulty. The search for purpose that brought you here, the ache for something more meaningful than what modern society typically offers, this is not something to be ashamed of or fixed. It is your invitation to depth, your soul's refusal to settle for surfaces. And the path forward is not about finding the perfect answer or achieving some final state of certainty. It is about learning to live within the questions more gracefully, to build meaning through the daily practice of attention and care, to allow your suffering to deepen rather than diminish you. You don't need to wait until everything makes sense before you start living meaningfully. You can begin now, wherever you are, with whatever you have. You can practice active love with the person in front of you. You can bring presence to your work. You can allow your difficulties to teach you. You can choose connection over isolation, compassion over judgment, engagement over numbing. These small choices are not preparation for a meaningful life. They are meaningful life itself, unfolding moment by moment. Purpose is not a destination you'll someday reach. It is the quality of attention and care you bring to the journey. Dostoevsky understood that we are creatures who need more than comfort, more than pleasure, more than success. We need purpose. We need to feel that our choices matter, that our suffering means something, that our love connects us to something larger than our individual selves. And he showed us that these things are available not through solving the philosophical problem of existence, but through engaging fully with the messy, difficult, beautiful reality of being human. Your questions about life, meaning, your struggles with existential dread, your refusal to settle for shallow answers. These are not obstacles to a good life. They are the very capacities that make a deep life possible. They are what allow you to build something real, something that lasts, something that matters not because the universe validates it, but because you pour yourself into it with genuine care. Perhaps a meaningful life is not about arriving at a sunny, peaceful shore where all questions are answered and all struggles cease. Perhaps, as Dostoevsky shows us through his characters and his philosophy, it is about learning to navigate the stormy seas with an open heart, knowing that the journey itself, with all its suffering and doubt and difficulty, is what makes us who we are. The love you give along the way, the presence you offer, the choices you make to bear another's burden, the courage to feel deeply even when it's painful, the willingness to live with uncertainty while still choosing compassion. This is the only lighthouse you will ever need. Not because it shows you where you're going, but because it illuminates where you are, right now, in this moment, with these people, in this life that is yours and no one else's. You are already on the path. You began walking it the moment you felt that first ache for something deeper, that first refusal of easy answers, that first genuine question about what it all means. And while the destination remains uncertain, while the questions may never be fully resolved, you are not walking alone. Dostoevsky walks with you, and everyone who has ever felt what you feel walks with you. And the practice of active love creates connection after connection, building meaning with every step. This is enough. You are enough. The search itself, conducted with honesty and courage and compassion, is the answer you've been looking for all along.